everyone for calling in. We'll get started here in a couple of minutes.
Q&A session has started. To ask your question, please press *6. Unmuted. The recording has started.
All right. I definitely like to thank everyone for calling in. My name is Derek Simmons. I'm the founder of Vision Group. We put this call together so we could take out time to educate, motivate, also to inspire, just to have some intellectual conversation, also enlighten our hearts and our minds, just to see what direction we need to go in and things that we have progressed in. So I definitely want you to continue to share the call. Thank everyone for sharing the call. As well, I emailed the link out to you as well so you can get on to your YouTube. So you can go live on the YouTube as well, and you can see. Well, not see, but you'll be able to hear. And if you have any comments, you can put in your comments as well in the section. I do want everybody to go and subscribe to that channel as well as Vision. Want to share with that may, that you want to just take out time with share it. And even for the playback as well, you can get on there as well. And you can enter your information in or just say subscribe to the channel. Then you can also say something live if you want to say something live, and then we can talk about that as well. So I do have it works a little different. I have people that ask me for the first time callers. It works a little different than the Saturday call. It is totally open discussion, so nothing is off limits. But we do want to kind of stay on topic to make sure that we get the full potential out of the topic that we are discussing today. So we definitely want to try to stay on topic as much as possible on that as well. Any comment is open. You can say anything that you would like to say. Just keep in perspective that it is just your perspective. So whether wrong or right, that is just your perspective. If it has some facts that you want to add to the conversation, we welcome that as well. But for this conversation piece, I have a co-host, Dr. Andrea Matthews. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Let me see here, make sure her line is unmuted. Hold on.
Hello. Muted.
Okay.
Hello.
We can hear you now. Sorry. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, so it's okay. Hello, this is Dr. Andrea Lynn Matthews. I received my PhD from Rice University a year ago. I have a doctorate in philosophy with a focus on African American religion. I studied the inner to engage in conversations and allow for a scholar to be a part of these non-academic conversations, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Right. And I forgot to mention as well for the callers that's on the line, and you can press star six at any time. You don't have to wait. You can press star six. You don't have to mention your name or anything like that. You can't go anonymous as well, so you can just press star six. If you got a question, you got a comment, anything that's in 2017. So we're going to give just to even see what the, and I had one guy to say, he was like, he inboxed, he said, man, what is black capitalism? Is that even a word, or is that even something? And that's normally where it's a movement among African Americans where we decide to build up wealth and ownership to develop like different businesses and corporations, churches, whatever can be included in that. And we're dealing and doing business amongst ourselves, with ourselves. Not saying that other people can't be involved, but we keep that front and center as far as doing business with ourselves. So I'm gonna jump it off with a question for you, Dr. Matthews, because a couple of people asked me about this, and I want to see what you're gonna think. And for all the calls, if you want to press star six, you feel free as well. Which one do you feel is more productive for African Americans, socialism or capitalism?
Socialism, for me, would actually be more productive, because in our capitalist society, if you give the power to the corporations and the states, they tend to discriminate and perpetuate disparities among citizens in the state. And so the states historically have not, to me, in my opinion, have not treated African Americans fairly. And so, therefore, I am totally for a government that and the political leaders and the businesses that further our objectives so that we can enjoy life and the pursuit of happiness. Then I think we can actually be able to participate a lot better in society.
Wow. Now, I'm going to have to, I guess I'm a little opposite of that in a way. I do want the socialism, but at the same time, I think I like the capitalism because it don't put a cap on individuals. It's kind of performance-based when you're talking about capitalism versus if you're saying socialism. You got the government putting things in place that put a cap on you then. Versus if you can say, I'm in a capitalist society, even though I know some of us are not being treated equal or definitely not being treated right, we still have the ability to succeed. And I know it's far and few and in between. Everybody don't reach the goals that they want to reach. But I was looking at a show, I think that was on BET. No, it wasn't BET. It was a different channel, but I can't remember the channel. But anyway, the substance was there, and I had no idea it was so many black-owned car dealerships that sell like high-end cars. So, and he was talking, and he was like, "Man, it was hard for me to get into because I would make money." So what he did was just a lot of
you go to school for free. You can't do well. You don't have the knowledge to. You want to live out in the country or out in the rural areas, and you want clean water. I'm going to pay my taxes and put away money because I am making money, so that those people can have that, and I can keep doing what I want to do. The concept that socialism. So if you look at London, education. That's the college loans, yes, as after the civil rights movement and as the Generation X were flooding and they had some of the highest rates of African Americans going into college, next thing you know, the price of, in a capitalist society, the price of college went up. So now, year from 1960 when it was free. So if I would have got accepted to Rice University
through the system a little better versus,
Are you?
even in some of these other, huh?
Are you? I mean, I don't know if you can necessarily maneuver. I mean, well, once again, yeah, but if you, yeah,
make a profit off of
well, but that's just it. If you, this is what we're talking about with Donald Trump. If you allow just like with healthcare, if you allow the insurance company or the pharmaceutical company or big companies to set the price, there's going to be an economic disparity in a because capitalism requires you capitalize. Those who have. Those who don't. So if you can't afford it, you're out. It's a caste system. You're out. So now, if you can go hustle and find the ways that you want to go, and that's true, I mean, you can do that. But we've seen that what makes this, to me, a democratic society is like has the freedom and the pursuit of happiness is because you have free education. You go to school for free. If you don't capitalize on your free education and get the grades so that you can get the scholarship so that you can go to a Rice University or go to other prominent universities, then yes, they, in a capitalist society, working at McDonald's, being an entrepreneur, owning your own business, and anytime you get any assistance, that's kind of socialism. If you didn't save the money yourself,
right.
so like for instance, my grandmother is 98 years old. She came up during the Depression. Until Roosevelt came up with Medicare, if you couldn't afford to go to the doctor, you just didn't go. So some of these programs that people say they don't like socialism, but if you're on Medicare or you're on Medicaid, that's socialism.
I got you. I guess maybe because I got a different mindset because I don't have any type of assistance. So, my assistance has always been me. I've never really been in a medical where I got sick or even when I had to pay for my education, I had to do what I needed to do and I paid for mine out of my pocket.
Yeah, but you didn't apply for a Pell Grant? You didn't apply for it? No. You have to fill out yes, you did. You go to college, you have to fill out a FAFSA form. And the FAFSA form will tell you whether or not you're eligible.
I think mine was different. Mine was in '92. What I had to do, what I did when I went to trade school, because I went to be a licensed electrician. And they told me exactly what it was going to be. I said, I'm going to have to miss out a year in order to make this happen. I got my money together, and I paid for my stuff up front. And when I brought my money in, they were saying I had to fill out all this other stuff. So when I put the money down, all of that disappeared. Because that's what I said.
Right, and that's fine. And so, but that's the point. That's great for you, but in a democracy, so that's why I don't. Socialism is not a bad thing to me. If you can do that, then you don't need to get on Medicare. You don't need to do those particular things. But there is a large group of people that don't have those resources for whatever reason.
Right, that's what I was saying though. Do we feel that we're being hindered like that? If we have, because even though we're not in right now we are in a capitalist society. I don't think a lot of people have a mindset that's saying, "Let me see how I can capitalize in this capitalist society." How can I?
Well, they definitely don't think, and it's a myth that they going around looking for a handout as well. That's a myth, also.
I don't know. Let me go to the phone lines. Press *6 if you got a question, you got a comment. The first topic that we talking about is part of this. Of course, the main topic that we talking about is black capitalism, but we gave the definition of capitalism. What do you think is better, socialism, capitalism? What do you like? What are your thoughts about it? Let me go to the phone line. Press *6 if you got a question, you got a comment, or even if you're on live, if you're on YouTube live, then definitely make your comments there, and we'll be able to read your comments. It's not too late to share the call. So if you have something that you want to say, make sure that you're able to say it. Let me go to the phone line, Jeremy. Go ahead, your phone line is open.
How you doing? Yeah, good evening. This is the Blue Bull. It's funny how we even use their standards to make them our standards. If there were socialism in our community, there would be no capitalism. Capitalism is when you capitalize off of the disenfranchised. That's why you have a capitalistic society. You said in drill that when our people start going to school, soon as they realize that they can capitalize off of off the things that we do, they did that. So my thing is, don't go to the schools. As soon as you put a polo on a shirt, and our people ran to that symbol, they capitalize. So we create the capitalism. But if we socialize with each other, you don't have to go to school to learn how to fix no potholes in your community, because someone right next door to you would teach you that. You won't have no $200,000 tuition, because all that you need to know is already there anyway. We flee to the capitalistic way of dealing with our people, because we get on their side and capitalize off of our people. That's why socialism is the only way for so-called Black America to get out of the hellhole that they have built. Socialism. I don't need you. I don't need that. If I wanted to have a car lot, I can sell a car without even having a car. If I can sell a car before I get the car. We must know and understand that it's all about business. If I have the socialization that we need in our community, I would never want for nothing, because I would already have the support that I need in order to make it happen. All I need is the dream, the drive, and make it happen.
All right. So you would say, so your stance is that it needs to be, we need to do away with capitalism, and work in a take away that altogether.
Yeah, we done jumped on the bandwagon that is riding on top of us. We are not realizing.
What would be the solution? What would be the solution if you're saying that we dealing with straight, right? No capitalism,
right?
And
okay.
How does that look in 2017?
Well, first,
like how does it look? And I'm just saying, in the judicial system, how does that look?
Okay. In the judicial system.
Yeah, how does that look?
First of all, we allow them to force rules on us that wasn't supposed to be. And then we adopted these rules. And then we shun people. Hustling was something that we socially did. But the capital logistic individual said, okay, then if they're going to hustle, we must capitalize even off their hustle. There's your taxes. You paying taxes on your own self. Are you serious? They capitalize off of your work, your energy. How dumb are we? I hustle.
Well, I definitely.
You go and dabble. Go ahead.
I definitely want to leave you on the line in case there's some questions there as well. For people that just logging in, we are talking about black capitalism. What does that mean? Should we even have it? Should we?
The caller made a good. I mean,
stay on the line with. Go ahead.
I mean, there's several things, right? So you're talking about Karl Marx, you're talking about Engels. I think it's Friedrich Engels. So socialism is a strategy to kind of up capitalism, right? And there's this whole concept of capitalism is on the premise that you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. If you don't have any bootstraps, then you can't. How is that supposed to work? And so that's some of the debate. So what happens is that when a capitalism is top heavy, right, there's a few people making a whole bunch of wealth and a lot of people scraping for the scraps. When you interject socialism, from my understanding, and I'm not an economist, but from my understanding, when you interject socialism, you allow the government to help those people who are willing to work, who have a good work ethic, who need an opportunity that's been denied for them, for even by the state, their town, their village, their parents, and it allows them through hard work and determination to catch up so that they can actually get into the open market and be a viable person. And it makes us collectively. There's a difference. It's only a cap. It's only a cap if the government is subsidizing. So you're right. If you apply for financial aid, there's a cap. Right. Now, if you can go in there, and you said yourself, if you walk in there with your own money, socialism doesn't bother you. If you walk in there with your own money, you're fine. You can pay for the education, so it doesn't affect you. The only person that's actually affected by it is the person asking for assistance. There's a cap on those. So if you, but what happens is people they want like big corporations want the be able to have the freedom of capitalism, but the minute that there is you spend all the money and you misappropriate, you go to the government for a bailout. Well, see, no, you shouldn't. The bank shouldn't be able to go to the bank for a bailout. But if they don't, we would all the rest of us would suffer. If you're the state, when the state has a tragedy where you have that's why you have FEMA, and when like what happened down in Louisiana, no, New Orleans. But see, this is what cracks me up about everybody who's for the capitalist thing and everybody who's for big your own bootstraps. Then when with your company,
but you're still supposed to use the system. I feel that
no, you're not. You can't use this. No, capitalism is you have or you don't. So if the fires, if Louisiana floods and Louisiana can't pay their own taxes, cannot pay to fix the levees, why should you take my federal tax? I don't live in Louisiana. Why should my federal taxes pay because they didn't pay the money for the levees? But nobody says anything when you go out and but that's part of socialism. That's socialism.
Right, but it's still part of capitalism as well. See, when
no, it's not. It's not. No, it's
capitalism. Hold on. Capitalism, you still have the government that has rules and regulations, even in capitalism. So if you know the rules in capitalism, you can legally go to the government and get a bailout.
Right. So so here's my question. So if you know the rules and you want to go to college, and you're accepted to Rice University, and they give you money so that you can afford to go to school. Why are people upset with that? But you're not going to be upset with a corporation that makes millions of dollars.
I don't think
so. Perfect. Let me give you a perfect example. Let me just say this. I'll say this one thing, and I'll close on this. Think of it this way. As a citizen of the United States in a capitalist society, I'm told to be economically secure, I need to save a minimum of 6 months worth of my total expenses. I need to have that saved in the bank to be economically sound, at least 6 months, in case I lose my job. Right, okay, so this is my question. So when the banks and these major corporations, you mean tell me, for me to be sound, I got to save 6 months, but a corporation doesn't have to save their expenses for 6 months?
It's corporate.
But they don't. The first thing they do is apply for aid. First thing they do is go reach out to get for aid, though.
Not every. You're saying like the rule of thumb, and that's true. It's just, but the capitalist society is doing the same thing. Every corporation, when they go into it, you can look at Wendy's. Wendy's went a long time without making any money. They didn't have assistance or anything, but they knew that they could turn it around.
No, that's not the same. No, you listen to what I'm saying to you. When you starting your own business is a rule of thumb. You're not going to make, if you're starting, I don't care what business you are, first 5 years, you probably won't see a profit, especially in the restaurant industry. You're not going to find, each industry has its own rule. I'm saying that major corporations what I'm saying to you is that there's a double standard. If I'm already filthy rich, okay, so that's why.
Play the game.
The only way you can play the game is either one, you have to be in the game and be a part of those people. And if you're not, what you want to be, like you want to be a millionaire, you want to do these things. Socialist programs like financial aid, like FEMA, like employment. Those are all the ways, like the Affordable Care Act. Those are all ways that allow the average Joe, the average who's trying to pull herself up by the bootstraps, because you can be as healthy as you want, but if you get an aneurysm, no of your own, or you were living in California and there's a mudslide, and you're living in a society, why can't the government or the state help you just like they do banks and major corporations? That's all we're saying. Why can't they do it? And when banks do it, nobody seems to have a problem.
They will most of the time.
Do they really?
Yeah, a lot of times they do. Even though they're going to capitalize on it, they're going to help if they can capitalize. When they did come into New Orleans, you know what they done? They rebuilt it, and they allowed them to come in and did everything differently. So some of the places that was all hooded out, that flooded out, yeah, they came in, but that's in a capitalist society. We could have went down there and bought some of the land. We just didn't. They were selling land down there when the flood came. They were selling it for almost $100 on some of the lots. It was $100, but did we capitalize on that? No. Is that because of our fault? We just didn't do it.
Nah, but that's overarching stereotype, and I don't believe, because there are a lot of millionaires that are African American. So let me just say this first, and we had this discussion earlier. The number it's a myth that black people, in my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, this is a huge stereotype, that black people don't work hard and that black people don't have the necessary abilities or resources to actually do things. That's why socialism works. To me, it is actually better because it allows for collective.
That's the biggest myth. Man, we have so much opportunity. Now, I'm not saying it's hard. It's not hard. You got to think, you're a PhD student.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that myth stuff go out of the window when people say they can't. I think we need to, instead of focus on, oh man, if this was this time for society, we could do this, the kumbaya kind of thing. Man, forget doing that. Learn how to operate in the system and flow.
No, socialism doesn't say that. What socialism says is that if you sell tea or something, right? You sell some tea or you sell some product, and you find out at the end of the month that you have a surplus of tea, then you put it on sale. You see what I'm saying? You need to cut the prices. And vice versa, right? That's what socialism means. You have a surplus of something, and you've been charging it at this price, and now and whatever the tea was, all the people who wanted to buy it, they bought it, or you need to spend more money on advertising. You couldn't reach it, so at the end of the month, you have all this tea that you did not sell. Then you put it on sale, and that is a part of socialism. Because the going price was this. So if you had the money for the iPad,
who's going to capitalize when you sell the tea? Who's going to capitalize off of it?
The consumer.
No,
the consumer capitalizes because the consumer capitalizes because they got it for cheaper.
Who else capitalizes on it?
Well, it's not socialism doesn't mean that you don't make money.
Exactly.
No, socialism doesn't mean that you don't make money. What socialism takes into account is that the price that you put on, the price that you charge for the tea, you exhausted the demand. Therefore, you go to the next level and you put it on sale. And then you're going to put it on sale again. And so, because you supply to the needs of the consumer. That's a part of socialism. So that's what I'm saying. The way y'all have this definition of socialism is kind of not necessarily all the way surrounded about how socialism works. People just think it's a handout. No, it's not.
It's not just
right. So a sale is socialism. A sale is socialism. Okay, well, there you go. So socialism is a good thing. I like sales.
Well, that's capitalism as well. You're also given the definition of capitalism as well, but most of the time it's when the government steps in and say,
no, that's not true. That's not true. That's how the reason why the government has to step in is because we're in a capitalist society. Because your state, Fort Worth, or your town.
You didn't let me finish. I
okay.
say the difference in between one of the capitalist societies and a socialist society is that the government is a different standard. It's a totally different standard as far as the way of living, the requirements of the government, and everything is totally different.
No, that's not true. What government? Well, let me ask you this question. Which government are you talking about?
I'm saying, like, when we say in capitalist society, because United States, because of the way we're operating right now, capitalist society. So it's certain things that the government is not going to do. It's certain
Which government?
What you mean, which government?
Because your state is different than your Fed. And your Fed is the one for us. The federal government, to me, and looking at the history of African Americans, and I could be wrong because I'm not a historian, but looking at the history, the federal government has been good to African Americans because the federal government is the reason why you get. Now, the state has not been good traditionally.
No, the state or the government haven't been good to us. I'm not saying either one of them has been good to us.
They haven't?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying they've been good to us, but they operate on capitalism.
But I guess what I'm confused you said. Well, what I'm saying, I guess what I'm confused on what you're saying is, you asked the opening question, which one do I prefer? I prefer a socialist concept. I prefer a society where if you do sell me an iPad, and an iPad costs $1,500. I like the idea that I can say, nope, I don't want to pay $1,500 for an iPad. I'm going to buy an Android. And I can actually go buy me a Dell computer instead. And if Dell does not give me the price that I want, I'm going to wait for it to go on sale.
That's not
and be on sale.
How it's ran. It's not a form of socialism, but all of them, it's operated totally different. If you're talking about, that's why we talking about. We want minimum wage to be this. We want this to be this. We want employment to be this. Well, you're in a capitalist society. That's why it's different. Where the wages over there in China is totally different. Why? Because it's
okay, but how's that working for us, though? But this is what I'm saying. How's that working for us? Because when I go to London, thank God, Professor Dr. Anthony Penn, I was able to go to London several times throughout my PhD career, and I'm telling you, I'm okay with that. I'm okay the way London. Matter of fact, they're protesting because they're trying to move them closer to a capitalist society, and the people there are a little upset. I'm okay with the fact that I can, if I eat healthy, I can get so like for instance, they have incentives for health. So in their socialism, if you know you're eating chitlins and you know you're not eating healthy and stuff like that, you can not necessarily get penalized, but you would there's consequences. You have to go to certain things because they want a healthy society. They want everybody in their town and their village and their okay. But wait. Like for instance, wait. I'm okay. Wait. And I'm also okay with London saying that I also agree in a socialist society that I am definitely okay with the fact that they do not give genetically modified food to their citizens. Why? Because they had the money to do the research. Genetically modified food causes long-term effects and deterioration of the health of the citizens of London. So therefore, the government refuses to sell people genetically modified food. But see, in a capitalist society, even though the Food and Drug Administration knows how detrimental genetically modified food is, because we're in a capitalist society, they're going to go ahead and let it in anyway. And if you can't afford to eat at Whole Foods, then you're just out of luck. I have a problem with that because it doesn't work. Capitalism eats its own tail. It doesn't work. Since capitalism has been in, we've had a depression, we've had a recession. The whole country goes into turmoil because there's always going to be greed, and there's always going to be a small group of people who take up the majority of the wealth from the masses, which
on your line. You can also go to the live if you want to click on that and add your comment on that as well. I mean, you do make a good point as far as that. I guess because I'm a realist, if you really was that concerned about your health and eating, grow your own food in your backyard.
If you got a backyard, people in New York City, so then everybody in New York City, they just doomed. There is no backyard in New York City.
I'm in Texas, so you know.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So that doesn't work for people in New York City or in New Jersey.
It will be something else created.
So that doesn't work.
If you wanted to, it work in Texas.
It's not gonna happen. You can't feed 8 million people off of cement. Not happening.
I didn't say 8 million people off of cement.
There's 8 million people in New York City. There's 8 million people living in New York City. They have community gardens, but it can't feed all of the people in New York City. It's impossible. So if you're in Chicago, impossible.
It's probably feeding the ones that want to eat healthy. Everybody else probably don't want to eat healthy like that anyway. But okay,
whatever.
Let me ask another question. So if we fast forward it now, since we're saying this is a major issue, so now we're seeing a whole bunch of black empowerment movements coming up, right? We're saying, build Black Wall Street again, we're saying black capitalism, that's the movement that we're doing now to build wealth. So if we're building wealth with one another, how are we going to do that without implementing
socialism? Yeah.
No, without
collective bargaining.
I'm saying without implementing capitalism. Because what it comes down to, how are we going to do it without implementing capitalism?
We just told you, socialism. That's how you do it. You collectively socialism. I know you hate it, but because the tenets of socialism is kind of like a public or some type of collective for the means of production, and then you have there's an emphasis on equality and the whole economic security of everybody, whether you live in Texas or in New York. And then the number one thing is it reduces class distinction. So just because you live in, what is that? I'm thinking of Houston now, but when I was in Fort Worth, you live in Westover Hills, or you live in Dallas and you live in Highland Park, well, versus you live in Stop 6 or Duncanville. It reduces class distinctions, and it's all about the one thing I do love about London is that there's a living wage. That means everybody in London, whether they're working as a street sweeper or whatever, they can buy an apartment and they can put food on their table because the living wage they're getting ensures that. I think that's the only way you're going to be able to beat capitalism.
So if we go back to that now, and you saying in 2017, what will be the move forward plan to implement that? Even if we wanted to start doing it, what will be the move forward plan? And like I say, you can chime in, press *6, if we said we were going to implement that.
Well, my great-grandfather, who was a orator in Kansas, and I've said this before, in 1912, African-Americans were asking the same question. And my great-grandfather from Kansas came up with the concept of, he didn't come up with the concept, but he was a proponent of socialist economy. And so, and as a definition. And so it's the theory that, basically that you pull your buying power and you actually support the organizations, the businesses, the products that ensure a good quality life and equality and fairness across all. And that's a summation. And so basically to the extent of that, right? It's like a where you can kind of pull so the African American buying power is what, $1 trillion or something like that we actually do. So the question becomes, collectively as a bargaining chip, how can we use that $1 trillion to better our neighborhoods and our quality of life, and for equality and mass production of products? How would you be able to start thinking about collectively pulling your money together to increase your neighborhood, your education, and your means of production?
Yeah.
So, and that was a conversation they were having in
Yeah, that's going to me.
1912.
That's yeah. To me, that's challenging because I have a lot of people that ask me to border like that, and I do sometimes. They may come to me and say, "Man, I need some flyers. I don't have any money, but I can give you this, this, and that." Which is I know a different form of it, but it's the same concept, really. Um, and I guess it comes down to the value system because if I value what they done and it's equal to my value, then we can trade off like that. But when you're dealing with a capitalist society, it's mine may have a hard cost where theirs may be a service oriented, if that makes any sense. And so therefore,
Well, I mean, no,
it makes
because
it a little
socialism is service oriented. So, socialism is service, useful services and goods of value to that group. So African Americans. So if you're going to say African Americans, what goods and services are of value to the businesses and the neighborhoods in African American communities? What housing? What's like you said? What kind of do we want to sell certain lots so you can grow your own food in your backyard or do your own water? I mean, these are the heavy lifting that we would have to consider in a black community, which is what we would do. So, and I'm surprised that everybody says it because once again, prior to the '60s and the Civil Rights Movement, before we integrated, we practiced a kind of like a socialist concept, right? Because you couldn't go to the bank for a loan, you couldn't go. So, like right here in Houston, there's Pleasantville. The black people in Pleasantville, which is one of the oldest towns in Houston, they laid their own electrical lines. They dug, they put their own, paid for their own water in Pleasantville. Everybody owned a home in Pleasantville that lived there in the black community. Matter of fact, it was the model for what you now know is the Woodlands. That was done by blacks before the Civil Rights Movement. I'm talking about like starting in the 30s and 40s. So some of these all-black towns, Nacogdoches and Kansas and all across other parts of the South, and even some parts in the North now that have kind of maybe a little bit gone, like in North Carolina. Okay, so black people, Rosewood, Tulsa. So socialism works. Prior to the integration. So I'm confused on why you don't. And to me, when I played off this,
I think we have to really get a working definition of social because it has so many different components in it. Because most of the times when you think of socialism, even by definition, you're talking about the rules and regulation by the government. Not necessarily the rules and regulations for the people. It's the rules and regulations by the government that makes it a socialist capitalist. So if you look at how Denmark and all them are ran, it's a total different government. It's not so much as the people have to fall under that because the government is different. Not so much as a people within that operate different. So we trying to operate in a whole different way, and we in a capitalist society. That's not really done that way. It's not like over in Finland or something. They trying to be capitalist, and it's ran. You know what I'm saying? They dealing with a socialist type of government.
I know, but I thought the conversation. Right, I know, but I'm saying to you, in this society, socialism. It still has an individuality basis. It's just that education and healthcare, because we want everybody to have a living wage, and we don't want people, because if there's poverty, we know there's crime. So no sense of having this great house and having all this money, and you got to buy security systems, and you got to spend all. Socialism just talks about public services that are that the government or people that ensures the benefits to all. You can still be an individual and have your own business and do your own thing in a socialist society. It's just that what you're willing to do is once all your needs are met as a socialist, you're willing to take the surplus of the great good work and ensure that everybody else has it too, so that everybody, which is equality, has the life and the pursuit of happiness without causing class distinctions. So I'm not pigeonholing you as projects or white trailer trash just because you live in a trailer park or you live in the projects, so to speak. You can live in decent housing as an American, and if you want to make the change, we'll give you some free education. And if you don't, well, then stay in your trailer park. And good.
Well,
just don't kill nobody or do anything.
For those that want to say anything, press star 6 on your line. Definitely we going into it even more, so just press star 6 on your line. If you have something, a question, or a statement that you want to make, press star 6. Go ahead, your phone line is open.
And let me just say this last thing, Derek. Let me just say this last thing. Whether you like it or not, this thing that you keep saying about in America it's different is because you have a mixture of socialism and capitalism. The states are capitalist. The federal government is socialist, which is what makes us have a democracy. Or because you don't get democracy with capitalism.
Right, I follow you. You're right. Go ahead, Carlos.
All right. This Red Bull, am I in?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I want to say one of Google's famous quotes is, "Use me, but don't misuse me." Socialism is using me. Capitalism is misusing me. The word capital, the state capital, it automatically tells you what it does. It puts a cap on something that you're doing. They got a such thing called a salary cap. That keeps you from doing things that you be able to separate those two words and know that socialism is the way it is socializing with people, and we will have a balanced society through socialism. But because capitalism has come part of socialism, now we have an unbalanced, which caused a disenfranchise of a group of people. And that is the so-called black people. That's where the unbalancing came from. See, when you put a cap on something, that means you're containing it and you are controlling it. It's allowed to flourish freely and get into a balanced state. And I just bring it to your attention. This is what we're living in. And the answer to that is that we have to separate from the capitalism, the mindset, and get back to socialism when we start socializing with each other. And when we start socializing with each other, we will start training one another so that we don't have to get their water. We don't have to.
I'm gonna mess with you a little bit. You know who you sound like?
I'm waiting for you. Go ahead.
I'm gonna mess with you a little bit. You know who you sound like when you
I'm listening.
that?
I'm
And
listening.
when y'all talking, y'all sound just like Jesus.
Sound like
Jesus said he was going to build a kingdom. Yeah, it sounds just like Jesus. Jesus said he was building a kingdom in the midst of a kingdom because he saw what was going on. He saw what was going on. That's why he always threw his. Now I'm talking biblical, historical.
Okay.
Jesus always talked about building a kingdom in the midst of a kingdom. So that's.
I understand that. I'll take that. And also, he built a kingdom within his mind. See, that was the first kingdom that he did. That's why he called Jesus Christ. You understand? He was just a plain old Jesus at first. But when he built the kingdom within his mind, he became Christ-like, which put him in a higher state where he knew that he can build a physical kingdom.
All right.
And
man, we're just
playing with that.
Yeah, I sure
Right.
appreciate you, man. And I've been getting a hold to your guy too with that water, man. So I ain't just cut it loose just to let you know. I just been
Okay,
he
I
just been
understand.
listening to me. So, all right, man.
That'll
Appreciate
work,
you.
man.
All right. We getting close to the hour. I know we like to keep it kind of timeless. So it's some good things that came out today. I know for all the callers that want to go back and listen to this, or you're gonna share it. You can also go to the YouTube link. Click on the YouTube link. I want you to subscribe. Let us know you're there. Tell us what you think about the conversation. Matter of fact, Dr. Mentor, I'm gonna let you close us out before we get on out of here.
I mean, the main point that I was trying to make is that all across the whole world, there's a blended version of capitalism and socialism. And so the point is, no one's any pure capitalist or pure socialist to a certain extent. And so it's just which one do you tend to lean more to? And I tend to lean to the fact that I think everybody should have, in the life of the pursuit of happiness and freedom and equality, that everybody should have a roof over their head. And I mean, since you brought up Jesus, I'll add to that point that it's your God-given right to be able to put food on your table, because if we didn't have these systems, the earth supplies food and shelter for everybody. It's only when man gets in there that we start restricting and capitalizing or deciding who gets socially, can decide who gets to be enslaved, who gets to be imprisoned, who gets to go without, all of that. But the earth supplies everything that we need for everyone. So I'm going to stick with the universal principle of that and follow Mother Nature and believe everybody should be able to eat and have a roof over their head and have some form of education. I do believe that your quest to be, that everybody doesn't have to be rich, and there are some people, whether we like it or not, in the African American community and across the world, that are okay projects and living in trailer parks. They're okay with that. If those people are okay with that, and they're not hurting and killing and destroying the rest of the society, leave them alone. Let them stay there, because that's what you can't push people past their own understanding anyway. And some people, that's all they want, and if that's all they want, so be it. But in the meantime, I think that so I'm for socialism. I'm for diversity of lifestyle, and I do believe that poverty is the root of most of our problems. And when people can't eat, and when people don't have shelter, they tend to become violent, and they're very destructive. And then at the same time, and when people become too greedy and have too much money and have too many resources, they also can be violent and very, very destructive. So, and I think we should, we should be able to balance that. And I think socialism allows us to be able to stay somewhere, using all the people on the phone who are into the Kemet, laws of Mayat and Mott here, and try to maintain a balance. And I think socialism in a global economy is the best way, especially since we have a democracy where we can vote and get a collective consensus.
All right.
And for black people,
you have your book for us?
I would just suggest that people read Karl Marx and Frederick. I really do think that you should read any books by Karl Marx and also Frederick Engels, Engels. That's a little bit of touching that I had, because I got that in my master's, not my PhD, and I got my master's 15 years ago. So if you, but yeah, I would suggest that you pay attention if you really want to understand capitalism. And also, start reading Karl Marx, Engels, and I think his name is Friedrich. Let me look it up while you say your last thing. But it's Engels, Engels.
And I would say Dick Gregory did a good YouTube clip on that as well that I would suggest people listen. If you just Google Capitalism and Socialism by Dick Gregory on YouTube, he definitely had some great points on that as well. So just kind of look at that Also, knowing where we at in the environment that we're in, I say do exactly what you need to do. Put some keys and principles in place so you can better yourself and also better your environment. Did you find that deal? We're gonna definitely get out of here.
Yeah, so Ingalls and Marx are together. So if you want to understand capitalism, it's Ingalls and Marx. I'm trying to find a really good person. So there is the first thing that I found out that you can there is a socialist scholars conference that you can Google. And so and I would just basically kind of Google scholars who focus on socialist principles and in America and basically you know try to focus on that. But to me, before you can even start that, you do need to, in my opinion, get a true understanding of Marx and Karl Marx and Engels to understand this Marxist system that set up capitalism. And then I think if you study what like you said, what we're known for right now, we're a capitalist society, study that. And then I think from there, you'll be able to be led to other scholars and other books that would allow you to, there's another organization called worldsocialism.org that you can be able to kind of look at, different ways of comparing so you can decide which works for you. And
all right. Well, that'll work, man. I'd like to thank all the callers for calling in. For sure, continue to share the call. Also, you can also press *6 on your phone if you have a question or you got a comment. You can always do that as well. You can press *6 on the line. We're going to take this last call and then we're going to get out of here. So go ahead. Your phone line is open. Go ahead. Your phone line is open.
Thank you. In closing, thanks again. I typically these programs are very stimulating, and we can learn a lot. But we've had a great deal of blah blah this week. We dumbed down, in my opinion, what we should have been discussing about capitalism and its benefit in America. Why waste our time dealing with socialism when we live in a capitalistic society? Waste of time. Who's got time to read Marx?
some of the people were saying that they still, because of the concepts, they still could function with that mindset and become beneficial.
But we also said though, Dr. Woods, that there is no pure capitalism in America. They're both in most democracy societies, you're both capitalist and socialist. There is no pure capitalist society anywhere in the world.
Well, let me say this.
There's no such thing.
There isn't a pure anything. But we are basically what we are. We're capitalistic.
Yeah, we're both capitalists and socialists.
I think lazy people can rely on socialism. Oh, we got that. Welfare. That has kept black folks on the bottom. The only federal programs have been programs designed to keep us at the bottom. Lazy people are interested in socialism. There's no benefit to it. The government owns everything. And that's what the government is attempting to do. What I had hoped that we would have had in this conversation was a discussion of how we can capitalize on the capitalistic system in which we live. One of the things
that's on the next topic. That wasn't you didn't get a chance to get in the first conversation of it. We doing it in stages.
Okay.
This right here, we was talking the difference between, so we can get a good working understanding of capitalism and socialism. And so if you don't have a working knowledge of it, you can't even understand how to maneuver through anything if you don't know what it is.
Well, so I don't know if drug dealers had a working knowledge of Marx and Engels, but they were able to capitalize and make money outside of the government. Okay, so no, they had no idea about Marx. They didn't read. What they did, they understood a system and the mechanics of the system and how it works. One of the things that
of the system.
Yeah, a mechanic.
So that means you need to study Marx and Engels if you want to
Learn by doing
understand
basics.
capitalism.
It wasn't something that they read. It was something that they observed. And I think we wait. Have I said before that America has the greatest number of educated black folks in the world, and we're ignorant and we're broke. Reading that gets us nowhere. We have to understand the concept of the system, and here, private enterprise is about the blood, sweat, the guts, the tears, the courage to get out and say, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen.
Dr. Woods,
I don't mind.
This is what we're going to do, Dr. Woods. For next week, that's going to be our topic. That's what we're hitting on next week as far as to say, how do we function? Since we know we're in the capitalist society, how are we going to function? You know, you get some people that say we need to do this, we need to do that. We're going to start, building the block to say this is what we need to do.
So let me get this straight. Hold on, let me get this straight. So you mean to tell me? Wait a minute. Let me ask the question. Wait a minute. Let me sum up. Let me make sure I got what the next topic's going to be. So I got a full understanding.
No.
I'm trying to understand what we're going to talk about because I think we've already addressed all that already.
You're going to define capitalism. You can't define capitalism without discussing the functionality of it. And you can't put that for 3 weeks.
But I'm trying to understand. So wait a minute. So we're basing this conversation on the fact that, from what Dr. Woods is saying, we're basing the next conversation on the fact that, one, our example is that drug dealers understood the functionality of it and they didn't have to read. So reading is not going to help us in any particular way. And that I'm just trying to understand what's the context of the conversation. Are we basing it on the premise of what he interjected? Or what?
It's not on the premises of what he's interjected. My
goal
is to say, because I know we're in a capitalist society, and I said that several times on the call already. So my interjection is to say we want to understand where we at. That's why I brought up the concept of Jesus as well, because you got to see that when you're bringing a mindset to a people, you're changing the whole dynamics of the way they think. Because you're coming with new concepts, you come with new precepts, you come with all that. So I'm saying for next week, we're saying, okay, now that we understand truly where we at, and if somebody can bring some more knowledge to it, to say, no, y'all don't truly understand where we at. But next week, we're talking about where we at.
Because nobody's reading. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Dr. Penn told me that. Dr. Penn told me I talk to people that don't read at all. And that was
exactly.
He said people don't read at all. But we will get into it, and we will make sure we lay the foundation to say this is what next steps as a whole black.
Is this going to help me maneuver through capitalism?
No.
Or are you telling me, well, then can I do a precedent, though? Can I ask a question then, since we're interjecting for the next conversation? So we need to get rid of stereotypes. And I just don't think that we should start with the form of the conversation where people who take socialism are lazy people, because then people who support, because then all of the people who are capitalists are narcissistic. I know, I got that, but I said, can we start the conversation where we take out the stereotypes? We're talking about maneuvering.
Objectively, we do need to look at it that way. But we'll see. I can tell next week is going to be a great conversation. So to